Hey everybody, hope all is well with you and that things are cool in your world. I was thinking about something this morning and I figured I'd share this with you guys. It was about the first day slash night that Gigi came to Tampa. But first I want to kind of mention a few things. I get a lot of questions asking me about, God, he must have stunk, and he, like riding in the limo and at your house, it must have just totally smelled like shit, and man, I can't imagine the stench and all this stuff. Here's the deal. Gigi and I swam almost daily, and I double shocked and double chlorinated the pool before he got to the house. So there was, he didn't stink. Like I said, we swam a lot. So, and his clothing didn't stink. There was a musty odor about him because I get the feeling Gigi wasn't hitting the laundromat a lot, but it wasn't the stench that everybody wants to believe it. So, just wanted to mention those two things. Also, I want to also mention or tell you guys how much I appreciate you guys tuning in and taking the time to watch this and for your support and all that stuff. And if I apologize overlapping some of these stories, please forgive me because I just don't remember what I've talked about in some of the other stories, and I don't want to take the time to go back and listen to them all to remember. So, I kind of do these off the fly. I don't write anything down, don't have a script or anything like that. So please forgive me if there's some overlapping. So as you guys know, I brought Gigi to town and we made the Carnival of Excess, and he stayed at my place for, a week, 8 days, whatever. It was kind of funny. So back then, this is pre 9/11, and you were allowed to go to the gate and meet your passenger who was coming off of the plane. And so I went to the gate where, Gigi was flying from Ann Arbor. He was staying at the Y at that point. And he was flying into Tampa. And it was funny because I noticed that as I was waiting for him at the gate, there was a lot of people scurrying really fast, I don't want to say running, but they were walking fast. And then comes, Gigi comes out, and he's kind of just, he's a somewhat, back then maybe an intimidating looking person, I suppose, if you're a business person traveling on an airplane or whatever. So Gigi comes lumbering out, we were both kind of gave each other a little smile because he knew and I knew that people were just scurrying away. Now, I had met up with Gigi about 2 months before in North Carolina, and I've told you guys about that when he was up there doing the Anti-Scene album. I went up there to do some photography and do some interview footage and drop off the transcripts for the Ann Arbor incident. And so we kind of, we knew each other at that point. We had been on the phone a lot. We were working on various different projects over the course of the year or whatever, and years. And so we kind of knew each other. So, we were riding back to the house from the airport and kind of joking around at, how the people couldn't stand being around him on the plane and all the rest of it. But we were in pretty good spirits because, we hadn't seen each other, and we kind of anticipated this was going to be some fun, for the week in Florida and all that. So the first thing I did, I should say, was I drove to the liquor store where Bob Widenhofer was working. Now, Bob was the one who wrote the music for Carnival of Excess and played on all the guitars on there. He happened to be working in a liquor store that was kind of close to the house, so, it was a twofold thing. I wanted to introduce Gigi to Bob. And also, we had to get some booze because it was we were both kind of in a celebratory mood, and so I got him a bottle of Beam and myself a bottle of Cuervo. I'm sure you've seen that those two things in the pictures from the house. And we go back to the house and we just immediately start hammering beers and shots. We were just getting pretty liquored up. It was kind of funny because right when Gigi went into the house, I kind of showed him around or whatever, and we had that. As I've told you, it was an old Florida house. Here's a picture of it, actually. But, the house kind of had a living room, then it had a little area for dining, and then it had a big kitchen. And then off of the kitchen, it led out to the little deck, which, we had no furniture on or anything. It was just a deck and then the above-ground pool. And then there was a garage right next door to it, and then kind of close to it, there was another house. It wasn't like there was a big separation of space. The houses were pretty close to each other. So anyway, we get in there and we start drinking it. And a friend of mine who was into Gigi's music and wanted to kind of meet and hang out with him, he was a little afraid, but he ended up coming over. Me, Gigi, and him ended up hanging out that night. But it was funny because once Gigi got a little comfortable, he immediately goes in my roommate's bedroom and finds his girlfriend's underwear, and that's what you've seen him using in the limo, and then they draped over the bottles in the acoustic, in the bathroom where the acoustic footage was. So he always kept them in his back pocket. In fact, he also stole some more from the dressing room of the theater when we were over at the university in the theater department. He rifled through there, and that was one of his sports, I guess. Anyway, so, we were getting really smashed. I mean, I can't, there's not a gauge to measure this, but I would say that I think that first night we got more blotto than any of the other nights. We were really wrecked. And so we ended up, having a late night swim, and, we decided it'd be a good idea, and this was really late at night, to go out there and go swimming. So, we're out in the pool, and we're just hammering right out of the bottles, me of Cuervo and Gigi of Beam. And the guy that was with us was getting really kind of hammered too, and he was drinking out of Gigi's Beam bottle. The next day he regretted that, or whenever I saw him again, he was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I was drinking out of Gigi's bottle." And I'm like, "Man, you're fine. It's no big deal." But anyways, so as the evening progressed, I was getting on the garage roof and jumping into the pool, and, Gigi and I were just being really loud, and, the neighbors were like, "Hey, shut up," and Gigi was like, "Fuck you," and I was thinking, oh man, they're going to hate us tomorrow, and because they had little kids that were probably sleeping, and we were being, pretty disrespectful. But anyway, so we got out of swimming, and we're kind of back in the house there, and I don't know what made us do it, but there was it must have been the music. I don't know, man. Something got into us where we just all started fighting with each other, and just, we're rolling around. The kitchen floor is big, and we didn't have a table in there, so there was plenty of space, and we're just rolling around, smacking each other and hitting each other, and it was a kind of like a pseudo fight and a mosh pit combined, and we're just, having a great time and all that. It was really good. Nobody got too hurt, or anything like that. A couple bruises, whatever. But we were going at it pretty good. And then I remember distinctly thinking in my head when we were rolling around, going, "Oh man, I can't believe this is. I'm like fighting with GG Allin on my kitchen floor right now, and this dude could snap at any time and bust my nose or whatever." But it was all good, and he didn't, and we were just having good old fun. And then we took some more pulls off of the bottles, and it was even more fun. And I remember that the guy who was with us, he was so hammered. He was sitting in this chair, and we had a little chair in the kitchen. And he was just like it was like in the cartoons when you see somebody's eyes crossed and the birds are flying over his head. And then he just literally fell in the ground and was out. He was completely passed out. Gigi and I were just laughing at the guy, and we were laughing. He wasn't hurt. He was just hammered. We were just joking about how he was the first one to pass out. It's funny because a little story about that too is. This dude wore glasses, and he was very paranoid about his glasses because he had seen what Gigi had done to that person's glasses at the New York City poetry reading that Todd Phillips arranged. He was smashing people's glasses. So anyways, this guy, when he left the next morning, he he forgot his glasses inside, and he couldn't get back in the house because the door was locked, and he was so paranoid about waking Gigi up because he didn't want to get his ass kicked or his glasses broke. He didn't want to say, Gigi, I left my glasses, get up. So he just drove home without him, and he could barely see, and he was hungover, probably still drunk, and whatever. He didn't get a DUI or anything like that. It was just all in good fun. But it was always a fun adventure when you get that hammer with Gigi and then activity starts flying around. But it was really great stuff. I think even at that point, and Gigi mentions this at the in-store, we were like opening cans of stuff and making some really awful like stew or whatever, like we're gonna eat this stuff, which we didn't. I mean, it was just gross. It was just kind of funny. But yeah, we hit it hard that night, and I never, again, when I was watching Gigi being interviewed at the Harbor Club that time, in a million years, I never would have thought 2 short years after that interview that I'd be wrestling and fighting with Gigi on my kitchen floor. But all good fun, man. Anyways, just figured I'd share that little story with you guys, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me babble about all this stuff, and it's fun, telling the stories about working with not only Gigi but Tiny Tim all these years later. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch it. Lots of cool shorts that I'm posting, other videos about Gigi and Tiny Tim and the channels and the stories from recording not only Carnival of Excess but Prisoner of Love, and it's going to be more on the way. So please subscribe, notify, like, share, all that business. And we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, you guys. Thanks.